The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to this webinar session. Today we will be talking about Microsoft Project Reporting. This is going to be session number 1, in which we are going to be seeing the timeline reports as well as the visual reports. In the next month, we are going to be the second session regarding the utilization and the creation of reports using Microsoft Project. The second session will be more related to the new reports that have been introduced with Microsoft Project 2013. So stay tuned for the second session. So my name is Raphael Santos. I am a principal consultant here at Sensei Project Solutions, and I would like to say thank you. Thanks everybody who is joining the session today. Thank you for taking the time to join me. I hope that we can have a great discussion and this session can be helpful. So before we get started, I would like to make a quick introduction about myself. As I said, my name is Raphael Santos and I am a principal consultant here at Sensei Project Solutions. I am also a Microsoft Project MVP, so I am part of a group of 64 project MVPs that are spread, I would say, in the world. I have been so my historical history as a professional using Microsoft Project is that I have been working implementing the PPM platform, Project Online, and Project Server in 3 different continents. So I have been working in projects in North America, in South America, as well as in Africa. And I'm based in the city of São Paulo in Brazil. So thanks again for joining me today on this session. So I would like to say a little bit and to just say a couple of words about Sensei Project Solutions, who is hosting this session today. So here at Sensei, we are a Microsoft PPM Gold partner, and we have been awarded with the Partner of the Year award in the year 2014, and we have also been nominated as finalists in 2015 and also in this year, 2017. We have more than 100 Microsoft PPM deployments and more than 1,000 users trained in the project manager's role, team members role, as well as the admin role. So, as I said, we are a partner in portfolio and project manager in portfolio and project management competency with a gold certification. And we have a truly global impact, as you can see in this slide. So this is the distribution of Sensei's clients all over the world, and this is the locations in which we are located or we are spread. So we have a couple of people in the United States, we have some other people down under in Australia, and we have myself here in São Paulo, Brazil, representing the South America. So that's basically how we are distributed. So if you are interested in knowing more about Sensei and understand what we do and what we offer, we have a collective set of services, solutions, trainings, and apps that help companies take their PPM implementation to the next level. So it goes from a variety of services from PPM consultancy, managed support with health checks, problem tickets, support and maintenance. We have a couple of good solutions, including the Jumpstart, the Report Packs, Integration Hub, Reporting Hub, Agile PPM, Power BI Content Pack, some trainings and apps. So if you are interested in knowing more about Sensei and how we can offer, how we can help your company, please do not hesitate to reach out to us at senseiprojectsolutions.com. If you are already a client of us, I just would like to say thank you for your business. So let's move on to our webinar today. So the webinar today is based on Sensei's book. I would say the Sensei best-selling book. I think that's the appropriate term to define it. The Proactive PPM with Microsoft Project 2016 for Project Online and Project Server that has been written by Kenneth and Dale. So this book is a really good guide for companies who are using Project Online and Project Server in conjunction with Microsoft Project. And the webinar today has been designed, has been created to help you understand the timeline reports, how we can configure the timeline reports, and also the visual reports, how the visual reports work in the context of Microsoft project. So this webinar, just to make it clear, it's not going to be dedicated or associated with a particular version of Microsoft project. So it doesn't matter if you are using Microsoft project with project server, if you are using Microsoft project with project server project online, or if you are using the standalone version of Microsoft project. You can take the benefits and use most of what we are going to be covering here with a single version of Microsoft project installed on your machine. If you do have questions, you can raise your hand or use the chat window to put your questions. And then by the end of the presentation, I will be dedicating some time to answer the questions that may come up. So let's understand a little bit about the timeline view. So the timeline view is a feature that has been introduced in the version 2010 of Microsoft Project, and its intention is basically to create a timeline about the major events happening through the project lifecycle, so we can put some useful information or some important information in a way that we can organize this visually. So it provides a visual report for us to share with our stakeholders, our team members, and whoever is working on the project with us. What we can do is we can put all of the information that is important or is relevant in a timeline, and then we can share this, as I said, with the main people who are involved on the project. So from Project 2010 to Project 2013, those two versions only allow a single timeline to be displayed in the timeline view. So even though it's a great feature, it only allows us to use one single timeline. But then in starting in Project 2016, project managers can now create multiple timelines in the same timeline view. And I'm going to be showing you how to do that. And this is really important and relevant because sometimes we do have projects that are really big and there are many phases that happen, I would say, in parallel with each other. So when we do have the ability to put multiple timelines, two, three, four timelines, we can take the advantage of putting everything together in a single view that will allow people to have a better understanding on the project. Also, if you are using the project 2016, the subscription version, the subscription client, there there was a November there was an update in November 2016 that now allows the project managers to see progress on the tasks in the timeline. So this has been a long time required feature to be introduced into Microsoft Project, I would say. Many project managers and many users of Microsoft Project were asking Microsoft to add this feature to the client, to add this feature to the software. And in November 2016, Microsoft made it available. So I will show you in our demo session how we can see the progress in the tasks of the tasks in our timeline. One thing that is important to know is that the behavior of the timeline is dynamic. So it means that any updates that we apply in our schedule, in our tasks, they are going to be reflected in the timeline if the tasks are available, are being displayed in the timeline. And one good reason for us to be using timeline is that we can export the timeline to other Office applications. So we can paste it in PowerPoint, for example, or Word or Outlook. So if we are moving forward and sharing, for example, a project status report through a PowerPoint presentation, this is something that we can put in the PowerPoint presentation, or we can send just an email to whoever should be receiving this, and it's really useful and easy to go. So let's just do some more understanding about the timeline. For us to understand how the timeline is configured, or which are the elements that are available in a timeline. The timeline is basically it has basically two elements. It consists of two elements. So the first one are the timeline bars, which are meant to represent the great phases, the highest level of the phases that we have in our project. So generally, this is what we put in the timeline bar. And we have the callouts, which are some small items that we can use, for example, for milestones which are important in our project, or really small tasks that we would like to show in the timeline because they are important. So here are the recommendations as I said. So based upon what I said, the timeline bars will basically be used for summary tasks, big summary tasks, detailed information, and the timeline callouts are more for milestones or tasks that are short in duration but that needed to be displayed in the timeline. So for us to just do a quick demo here how the timeline is configured and the new features that have been introduced in the timeline by Microsoft, I will be just switching here. So let me just go away from the presentation for a while, and I'll be opening up this project here called Absolute Technology Infrastructure. So let me open up this project. And as we can see, let me show you. If I go to the view and then go to outline and then I put, let's say, level 2, we have many subtasks in our project. We have many summary tasks, I would say, in our project. And our project is quite big, so it has almost 100 tasks. It's starting in the year 2018 and finishing in 2019, so 1 year long project. So it's a very big project, a very complex project. And sometimes when we need to show this information to somebody who is not managing the project with us, such as our client or our sponsor or some key stakeholders in our project, it's hard for us to, for example, share everything. Let's say all subtasks and then print and then have the Gantt chart displayed for them. So one thing that we can do and we can easily do is to configure the timeline to display this information. So how can I see the timeline? First of all, we need to understand how the timeline is displayed. So we have a couple of ways to display the timeline, and one of them is going to the view area. So then in the ribbon, when we navigate to the view tab, we can click on details. And if we click on details, oh, sorry, not details, sorry, the timeline is going to be displayed here. So it's always displayed in the top of the screen. So this is one way we can see the timeline. And the other way is if we right click the Gantt chart and then we have show timeline. So if we right click the Gantt chart, we have show the timeline. And one thing that is really important that we need to be aware of is that if we click on the timeline tools tab is going to be displayed here. So this is the dynamic tab that is displayed by Microsoft project based upon the object on the screen we are placed in, we are located. So if I click on the Gantt chart, it's going to be the Gantt chart tools. If I click on the timeline, it's going to be the timeline tools. So this is the contextual tab that is displayed by Microsoft project. So as soon as I am in the timeline, I can use this button here, existing tasks, and I can define which are the tasks that I'm going to be inserting. So for example, let's say that I would like to see my project kickoff milestone, and I would like to see my planning phase, my execution phase, my closing phase, and my project complete milestone, for example. So I would like to see some key milestones as well as some phases of my project, which are represented in my summary tasks. And I can click OK. and then my timeline is displayed here. So that's pretty simple, straightforward. One thing that we can do is, as soon as we have our timeline here, we can change the data format, for example. So I can choose, I can choose the data format that is better, that better fits my needs. So I can define which one is the best one for me to use. And another thing that I can do is I can select the big blocks, the main phases of my project, and I can change their color. So I can start using a different format here, just to represent some. Sometimes we need to represent the colors that our company uses, the default uh, colors that, or the default layout that our company uses, so we can define which colors we are going to use here, for example. Another interesting thing is that, as I said, Microsoft has introduced in Microsoft Project 2016 the ability for us to use multiple timelines. So, for example, we can create a timeline bar, and this is just going to create another timeline here, which is a second timeline that I can use in conjunction with the first one. So let's say that in the second timeline, I would like to detail more my execution phase. So what I can do here is I can click on my second timeline, I can go to existing tasks, and let's expand the execution phase. And then in this execution phase, I will put my key formal project kickoff milestone here, and I will put some phases which are inserted under the execution. So, for example, I would like to see, let's see, I would like to the cutover plan, the implementation plan, the development lifecycle, for example. And within the development lifecycle, I would like to see, for example, requirements, definition, and design, for example. So when I do that, I can click OK, and all of the second items that I have introduced are now part of my second timeline. And here I can use a different tone of green, for example, in order to let people know that this is part of my um, execution phase. So that's pretty nice, because we can, let me put some green here, because we can put here some information, and we can have a high level view of the timeline here in the top, and then in the bottom of the page we can see all of the main sub phases, I would say, that are part of my execution phase. Another great thing that we can do, really cool, is that we can now use labels for the bars. So I can click on label, and project will understand that we have two bars, and I can see, and I can say that this is, for example, my overall project, and this is the detailed execution phase. So that's pretty cool. Now I have all of the details of my information here, and I can, try to change a little bit things, but this is the way that I would be able to present the timeline. And for those of you who are using the project subscription version, one new thing that has been introduced by Microsoft Project, as I said in November last year, is the progress bar. So for example, I am seeing the planning phase here, right? So let's say that my project phase, my initiation phase is now in 25% of completion. So if I click 25% of completion, what's going to happen here is that my planning phase is now going to have a progress. Let's say that my planning phase is now 100% complete, and I am now moving to execution. So under execution, let's say that I have, let me put here the level 3. Yep. So now we are under execution, and the development lifecycle phase has been, the requirements have been finished, for example. So if I go to my requirements, I can click 100%, and then some aspects are going to happen. So my execution phase is going to display the 5% of completion, and the same is going to happen to be to be true for the development life cycle. So that's pretty cool, pretty nice, a new feature that has been introduced that helps us a lot to extract information and to share information with people who should be receiving data and who should be consuming data from Microsoft project. And then when I need to define and to share this information with them, what I can do is I can go to my timeline and I can copy my timeline. I always prefer to use the full size timeline. So I will click here, full size timeline. I'm going to go to my Outlook, for example, and let me go here to my inbox and say I'm going to send an email. So if I send a new email to myself, I can just paste my timeline here. That's pretty nice. One thing that I can do is I can also, resize my timeline in order to make it fit into the screen, or I can paste this as an object, for example, a bitmap. So this is going to be like a picture, and I can say my timeline is going to be 15th in width. So that's the way my timeline is going to be displayed, and then I would be able to share my timeline with anybody that is involved and has interest in the project. So pretty cool. So I am going to close this email without saving. And let me close this project. I don't need it right now, so I'm not going to save it. And let me go back here to my presentation because we just need to go to the visual reports. So let me go to my visual reports and let's talk a little bit about the visual reports. So as I said, this presentation is divided in two sessions. So in the next month, we will be covering the visual reports that we can use in Microsoft Project, the built-in reports that are now available in Project, are available since Project 2013 and Project 2016. So just to brief you about the visual reports, they have been introduced in Microsoft Project 27. And what they allow you to do is to see your information in Excel pivot tables and pivot charts, and also into visual diagrams. So when visual reports are created, what we can do is we can distribute them with team members and whoever needs this information. One thing that I do not like that much about the visual reports is that they are static. So once they are created, there is no way for you to refresh them, which means that for people who are still using Project 27 or Project 2010, you need to create reports basically every week. So that's not something nice to say. However, what I'm going to do here is I'm going to show you real quick how you can create a custom report that is in fact refreshable. So you can refresh this report using the technique that I'm going to show with you in a second. So this is the out-of-the-box reports, the way the out-of-the-box reports are presented when you basically create a cube that consolidates all of the data, and then you can, for example, create a cash flow report. As I said, they are nice to see, but that they are not so nice to use, just because we do have to create a new report as soon as we do have new information in our projects. So what I'm going to do here is the following. I am going to show you how you can create a custom report if you are using Project 2010 or 27 that can be refreshed. So what you have to do is the following. Let me open up a project here. So let me open up this project. And what you can do is the following. You can go to the report area, the report tab in the ribbon. And in the report tab, there is a visual reports button here. So I'm going to click in the visual reports. And usually what we do is we go here and just select a cash flow report or a baseline report or something like that. And when we do view, what Microsoft Excel is going to do is it's going to create a cube in which we can see the static information. What most people do not know is that we can save the data. So if we save the data, and save the data as a database, what's going to happen is Microsoft Project will be converting all of the information into a Microsoft Access database. And then we can use Microsoft Excel to connect to that Microsoft Access database. So let's see an example here. I will click Save Database. And then I will just leave the name, the project as it is, North Central Region Market Research. But I will do some other things here. So I will call this database, so then I do not make any confusion between the name of the project and the database that has been created from that project. And I will be doing something else, which is I am going to change, and instead of this file being an MPP file, which means Microsoft Project, I'll be changing this to MDB, which is Microsoft Database. So this is a really important step. Please do not forget to change the extension of the file. It should be a Microsoft database. So then it's going to be saving this as a Microsoft Access database. So I'm going to save, and then this is going to be saved completely and successfully. So let's click close and click close here. Now what I can do is I can go to Microsoft Excel, and let me just create a new report from scratch for you to see. I'm going to get data from Microsoft Access, and my database is here. So as soon as my database is in here, I can click open, and it's going to present me a list of the tables that are available for me to bring the information from. So there are some views and there are some tables as well. I'm going to connect in this MSP EPM task table, and as soon as I do that, I can click OK. And I can click, for example, pivot table, just because I would like to create a pivot table from the report. So as soon as I do that and click OK, look what happens. I can see that there are a lot of there are a lot of fields, and all of these fields are coming from Microsoft Project itself, which is really, 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 really great. So what we can do here is the following. Let's say that I would like to have a report, for example, that shows the percentage of completion for the main phases of my project. So what I can do is I can go here. I can of course that you need to do some work to understand the names that are available, the fields that are available, how Microsoft organizes the information. But I can click here on the name of the task and put the name here. I can pick the percent of completion, for example. Here I can see the percentage of completion for the tasks. Now I would like to see only summary tasks. So there is a flag here that says is summary. So I can bring this here and say I just would like to concentrate in tasks that are summary, so true. So here are all my summary tasks, right? The problem is they do not come up with the order or the sequence in which they happen in the schedule, just because Excel is organizing the tasks in an alphabetical order. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to look for a field that's called task int. So let's look for this task int UID, and I am going to bring this information here before the name and just remove the subtotals in here and say that this report is going to be tabular. So I'm not looking for an organization in groups. So here I have all my tasks organized in the way they happen. They are summary tasks. I have the name of the tasks and I have the percent of completion for all of them, right? So as soon as I do have it, what I can do is I can just go and create a report. And my report is going to look like this. Pretty straightforward, pretty useful, with information that's coming from Microsoft Project. And one thing that is very important, so let me just change here the labels, because I would like to see this in a reverse order. Yep, this is the way that I would like to see that. And one thing that is really important is as soon as you do have the report ready to go, If you do have any changes in your project, for example, so let's say that I have a change here in the planning phase and also in the execution phase. So if I have those two phases completed, I can go ahead and go to reports, visual reports, save data, save database, and I'm just going to replace the database that already exists. I think it's going to just say this cannot be done right now because you have a file that depends on the database. I think that's true. Let's see. Can I export? Yes, I cannot export because I do have a file which is the Excel, which is consuming data from from the database. But the key point here is if we go to data and then queries and connections, we are going to be seeing that I do have my connection here. And if I right click and click properties, the connection string is available here. So that's really useful because as soon as I have a change in the project, I can apply the changes, I can replace the existing database with new information, and then I just go back to Microsoft Excel and refresh the data. Also, if I would like to change the report to use a database from a different project, I can also change it because I can browse here. I can define which is the database that I'm going to look at, and then I can use the report for many projects, for different projects that I might have. I know that we are coming close to the end. I think I am 1 minute late already, but let me show you one example that that I created. So this is an example of a custom report that I created. So here we have a couple of information such as, start date, baseline finish, and finish variance. We have the project phases. We have the progress for tasks. We have, how many tasks we do have variances. We have the list of milestones, and we have a list of all the tasks and, their status if they have finished variance. What's the percentage of completion? So that's pretty cool. One thing that I would like to share with you is that the reports are going to be available. So let me just go back here and put in the presentation mode for a minute. So if you would like to get the reports are already available. So you can get the reports from Microsoft's TechNet Gallery. So they are available through this hyperlink here. If you are interested in learning more how you can create your own custom reports, you can read an MPOG article that I wrote in about, I think, 1 year, 2 years ago, maybe. So I provide all of the details about the creation of your custom reports if you are using Microsoft Project 2010 or 27, for example. Or if you'd like to receive the hyperlinks and the files and you would like to get started yourself, you just email me at raphael.santos@senseiprojectsolutions.com, and I will be more than happy to be sharing this useful information with you. And I am pretty sure that you are going to have some useful material to get started with. So I know that we are now 3 minutes not late, but after our regular time. I will be seeing if we do have questions here on the chat window. So there is a question that's coming from Allison. So thanks, Allison, for asking a question. Do we have to have access to create the access? Okay, Allison is asking if we have to have Microsoft Access installed on our machines in order to create the MDB file, and the answer is no, you don't. You need to say that the file is going to be a Access database, but you definitely do not need to have Access installed on your computer. The access would only be required if you'd like to open the database and do something else with the database. But since Microsoft Excel is going to be the tool that's going to be consuming data, you just need Excel and Project. You don't need access. And there is another question coming from Allison, and he's asking if you require progress to be updated through resources entering their time, does the progress info still show on the timeline bar? The answer to this question is yes. If you have, for example, if you are using Project Online or Project Server, and resources are updating their tasks through the tasks pane or through the timesheets, and this information then is synchronized with your project, then the progress is still going to be displayed because it's tied to the tasks. So whatever we have in the tasks is what's going to be synchronized and displayed with in the progress bars in the tasks. So I hope this covers the questions that we have. If we do not have more questions, we are 5 minutes late, everybody. But I hope that you guys have enjoyed this session today. And remember that this session is being recorded, so it's going to be available. You are going to be receiving a hyperlink to watch this presentation again if you need to. And if you do have questions, comments, concerns, anything that you'd like to share, I would be more than happy to be receiving them and to be interacting with you. So please do not hesitate to write me at rafael.santos@senseiprojectsolutions.com. I will be waiting all of you guys in the next webinar. So thank you very much, and I hope you have a great day. Bye bye.